yeah, it kind of opened my horizon in terms of like what design can look like, what are the different ways. So I reached out to a couple of people on LinkedIn because I thought like what's there to lose, right? They also come with a lot of different skill sets. So it's not just one streamlined way of looking at work, but it's like a holistic way of looking at work. Seconds in like a film can make you tempt so much for that particular food. And that's what also mother does when she cooks for you.
Right.
So both blended together. That was also a very interesting starting point.
Hello, Mayukh. How's it going? Super nice to have you.
Very well, Satin. So good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a bit about yourself and how did you get started in this field of design?
Yeah, so that's interesting because I think as a child I was always into like drawing, but of course like that couldn't let you to design by itself. But this like constant habit of mine since childhood and it kind of grew with me. I also had a lot of people around where I could see art and them doing a lot of amazing work in this field. So back in school, when there was this time to decide, what's gonna be your future like. It's actually my mom and dad both, who took me around meeting a lot of artists, a lot of designers. See, okay, this guy has all of these interests. What can we do about it? Like, is there a future? Is there a career out of it? What's it gonna look like? So I think that's where it began. Uh, yeah, and like me just trying to figure out what design is because I belong from Guwahati. Uh, that's my hometown. So back in 2014, 2016, I personally wasn't aware of design much. But like after talking to a couple of people,
Mhm.
I figured out that okay, this guy's child or this person's child is in one of the design school, and ended up reaching out to him. So and that guy kind of gave me like an overview of what's this gonna look like.
So, have you been self-taught?
No, no, no. So yeah, I mean that's where it started, and then I joined GLS Institute of Design in Ahmedabad, and that's where my formal design education started. Did like a 4 years bachelor course, and my specialization was in graphic design. So that's briefly what I was as a child in terms of doing art and all, and how it led to me deciding, okay, design would be the right thing to do. I first wanted to do animation in my course, but that somehow didn't happen and ended up doing graphic design instead, which don't regret as a decision ever. And yeah, so it began like back in 2016. I did my 4 years, graduated in 2020, and then started working with a
That's
couple
awesome.
of amazing people and places.
How did you land up at Landor? And how was that journey?
Yeah, so I think I had this great opportunity of working with a lot of people back in college as part of the formal design education and the course. You have to do a lot of internships. So if I have to like look back at 2018, 2019, I started my internship with a couple of amazing people back in Malaysia. So I worked with William Wong and his studio and his partner studio, and there were a couple of amazing projects to look at. And he was the one who kind of gave me like an open, yeah, he kind of opened my horizon in terms of like what design can look like, what are the different ways you as a creative professional can actually delve into. And it's not just, like black and white of what we easily do on a day-to-day basis. So that was one starting point. I had a couple of amazing mentors at college. Then I went to Studio ABD, which became my first place of work. And I also happened to join that place in just during COVID, like when the lockdown hit. So that was like a roller coaster thing because I wasn't sure if any place in India is
Right.
gonna know me, and also a bit vulnerable because you just graduated and you don't know what really to do, and sitting at home wasn't really the option. But yeah, thankfully the journey with Studio really started, and that's also my formal introduction to working in the industry, like right hands on. Again, like amazing people, amazing projects to look at from various scales, from smaller to bigger clients, and also different ways of looking at it because that was a multidisciplinary studio. So they had a lot of other stuff going on like product design. They're also pioneer in designing trophies. So a lot of graphic design influence or introduction into all of these fields, which are not 2D and graphic. So all of these were also other learnings and openings. And then I had my time and then I wanted to move on to something else. And that's when Lando happened. Like probably I wanted a change of place because I was in Bangalore. And then also wanted to move on to something where I could fit in a little more in terms of the kind of work I wanted to do. So I reached out to a couple of people on LinkedIn because I thought like, what's there to lose, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, of course, I applied through the usual HR processes, but they have their own time and processes to take care of, so it takes a little time. Meanwhile, I thought I'll just write it out to a couple of people who are directors over there, and touch wood, lucky enough, they replied back and they wanted to look at my work, and yeah, I kind of escalated quite quickly, and then I joined them within a couple of months, and then moved to Bombay. Then been Lando been happening for a year now.
That's a sweet journey. I mean,
Yeah.
it was pretty comprehensive at first, and then you wanted to like kind of specialize and do more of what you love. So yeah, Lando must be a good place. What's your favorite thing at Lando?
Everything, I think the team, because I get to work with the best minds. And I'm not saying this just for the people who are at the senior level, but it's like best mind across. Who people who are just joined, who just started from the mids to the seniors to the directors, like best minds who actually lets you push. And of course, there are like big clientele, amazing project opportunities. So that also kind of creates an opportunity where you could actually show client or the industry what's the best example of that work can be. And the team kind of, lets you do that. And again, the team is just because it's a decent number of employees working in the company, they also come with a lot of different skill sets. So it's not just one streamlined way of looking at work that you're doing, but it's like a holistic way of looking at work.
That's a great answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something that resonates because be it a Pentagram or Landor, these big agencies, they are big because they have been able to like stand the test of time with just great people in one team. Makes
Of
sense.
course.
I would love to know your design process. So like, if you can, let's just decipher, for example, the Mamazaki project, which won you like India's best design project in 2022.
Yeah.
Right? Super congrats for that. And
Thank you
if you
so
can,
much.
let's just get into that process.
Yeah, so I think that also happened in a very interesting way because that brand, which is a cloud kitchen today, back in Guwahati, reached out to me through a friend, a common friend. And she wanted to start her own kitchen. She's also like, apart from her day job, she was also a chef who was experimenting with a lot of blended cuisines. So I thought, okay, let's talk to her and figure out like what can we really do. So that's when the conversation started, and the was quite interesting, and that's what kind of led me into this project. The brief was that she was starting a cloud kitchen where everything is a blended cuisine of what she learned from her family, from her grandma, from her mother, and also the Assamese culture, Bengali culture, and everything around. And then you put something into the menu, and then push. So that the brief itself was quite interesting. But just because it was kind of started by one person who wanted to take it slow, and there are like multiple phases to the project. So the budget was quite slammed in terms of what we can do as a packaging, because if it's food, in the food and beverage industry, it has to have a lot of packaging, and that involves a lot of cost. So we figured out a way that, okay, to start with, probably we won't do all the packaging that, most of the food and beverage guys do. Like they would design a box with an amazing graphics or something like that, and then that goes off. We thought, okay, let's not do that because probably the budget doesn't, support that budget in terms of the production budget, and not budget of this project. So that's where it started. Like we started with as simple as possible in terms of the touch points, and that's how it went. So again, just because the project was called Mama Zaki, she had this name in mind. The name was also from Mama being mother, Zaki means Miyazaki, and both blended together because Miyazaki, because she was quite influenced with how simple animation of couple of seconds in Miyazaki's film can make you tempt so much for that particular food. That was quite beautiful to hear. And that's what also mother does when she cooks for you. So both blended together. That was also a very interesting starting point because that's what kind of led us into the design. Where if you have looked at the project, it is also
Right.
very earthy, it's warm, it's personalized, and that was the whole story. Like if it's, we jammed a lot, but we then decided, okay, if it's talking about Mama Zaki and it's talking about mother and how the food comes and how the food is looking in Miyazaki's film, let's start at where uh, and how a mother's food kind of talks to you. And we ended up making the packaging or the all the touch points in a way that it's almost like your mother or your loved one is packing the lunch and sending it to you. That's why you see the small note being
Right.
pinned up because again, like budget constraint, but we kind of figured out a way where it could actually look that raw and that personal again. So there's a handwritten note, and then the type is also, it's a type-led branding, but it's strong, but it also has a character of flowing into another because again the blended cuisine idea, and then all put together, which is in a color palette which is familiar to the warmth of it, but at the same time it's familiar to the Indian food palette because a lot of oranges, browns comes into the food palette.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's largely the project. And again,
Super
like
interesting.
this is planning to move into a lot of different larger scale ideas where right now it's more the touch points are more streamlined into packaging and couple of stickers and how she takes it forward to all of these pop-ups that she does. And now it's planning sometime in the future it will plan to move out in a larger scale. So you have more touch points, more products in line to actually tell that story. And also, she was in MasterChef, one of the top chefs there. And yeah, that was also quite interesting because I
So
just
yes,
love to see how the project kind of panned out, how her personal journey kind of panned out as well.
I'm Bengali by the way, so I resonate with this completely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's
so
great.
it's so earthy and grounded as you mentioned, and it makes sense because the design brief when you were mentioning that, it just goes on to tell you that she from her side is so passionate and so understanding of the impact of design. She has put in the thought first, and
Yeah.
that's when you can come in, chime in, and just take it to a next level. Makes sense. How
Yeah, I
how do
think,
you think
yeah.
it got like? What do you think was special for you going for this project that got you the award though?
Oh, when I was applying for the award, I didn't really think of it. Um, I mean, didn't think what it can win. I thought I'll just, give it
Right.
a shot. But where I was confident is work at that time where I was confident was that I thought it had a nice story to tell, and with whatever the limited touch points that we could create, the story kind of resonated. And that was maybe that I felt that was visible enough to people because once you tell the story and where it's come from, why the brand exists, basically, you kind of see the design and how it's made, kind of made sense. So I thought, okay, let's give it a shot, and maybe how it came together, the project, the type, everything. Maybe it made sense to the jury, and then it won.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And it's always these organic projects that can get you accolades. If you'll try something to get accolades, I don't think it'll work.
Yeah, yeah, not from that mindset for sure. Like
Right.
you design it for the brand itself and then let it speak.
Awesome. And there were so many times where you explained how design is actually problem solving, and that was super awesome to know, man. What were some challenges
Thank
that you
you.
had to face and kind of overcome in your career, Mayukh? These can be challenges that you knew that they would arrive just like it arrives in everyone's life, but then how did you solve them in the design perspective mainly?
Challenges, I think there can be multiple ones. For example, if I have to talk about personal challenges, it may not be about phases, but it can be about more like a cycle which comes to you from time to time. But I think being a visual designer or in this field, uh, once because you are consuming so much, you are doing work, you're looking at work, you want to push better. There are phases uh, where it becomes challenging, and you get into that introspecting moment where you question where do you stand. You see a lot of people around doing amazing work. Do you stand at par with them and all of them? Uh, It can be productive and counterproductive at the same time, but that really depends. I don't know a heck how to go out of it. But I think what I usually do is if there are like some gray or black moments like this where you don't know if you're churning out 100% of your productivity, what I do is I make sure whatever energy I have in terms of doing that, I would do, cap it at that, and probably try to move into something else just for a brief period of time so that I can freshen my mind. And also,
Makes sense.
what I do is I also make music. I'm also into producing music. So that is also like a good balance and makes me step out of work and look at again creativity in a different way. That's one way, and then I also try to treat my work in a very specific manner in terms of strict in terms of time spent on it, and not let it overpower me. It's not always successful for sure,
That's
but
great.
I try to do that. But I feel that doesn't mean I stop the designer in me. The designer in me, it's more of a lifestyle and way of looking at things and solving things and certain projects or jobs or whatever it is, be it now and previously, it can always be looked at in a slightly strict manner.
Makes sense. At times we do get caught up with this, and
Yeah,
you need a refresher. Like it's music for you, it's writing for me. So it
that's
makes sense.
great.
It makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah. Do send me some
Nah,
tracks.
yeah, I'll do that. And also, I feel unlike any other profession, this is something that probably I wanted to do as a child because somehow I was involved with creativity in a way, and design happened to be it. Just because it comes out from that intent or that involvement, it's more like a very smooth flow once you get into a career. So it gets very easy to lose that track, and it's a very fine line between where you put like a cap and where it can overpower you. And you don't realize it unless it's a little extreme sometimes because you are so much into it and you are already in that, mindset from a long time, long time.
Part of the conversation is for like proper design junkies. They'll get what we're
Yeah,
talking about.
of course. I'm sure I'm not the only one out there.
Can you tell us about like, one challenging design brief that you had encountered and how did you maneuver that? Something super. It could be in the context of the brief being too interesting and so you have a lot to do, or it being too vague and so it was too difficult for you to get insights out. Any such thing?
Uh,
Anything?
Yeah, if I have to pick one of the challenge, again, like challenge can be of different types, but one of the project it was, I wouldn't like to name it because of the confidentiality purpose, but it was a cement brand in the construction industry that I did with my team in Landor couple of months back. And just because they come to you with all the enthusiasm of, you know, they want to make there were a couple of strategy level messed up things that were in the company which needed some fix. So the strategy team helped with them. That was smooth enough. And then we delved into the design, how this is the particular way to look at the company, which is much more cleaner, streamlined, and you have one single brand identity because cement companies are very sales driven and it is a lot how the function as a brand is a lot about how the sales distribution is, how all the influencers in your sales channel are influencing the end buyer, and it's not like something you go and window shop. So it's a very
There
tough.
must be a huge word of mouth part of
Yeah,
that
yeah, it
cement
is.
sales
It
for
is.
you.
Yeah, yeah. Price plays a role. Quality plays a role. Which belt of the country you're functioning is that is playing a role. Yeah. So saying that it's a very tough industry to crack in and really make them understand what design can do. Because a very easy question would be, okay, I already have my sales. Why do I need your amazing design or amazing visibility of a logo to make my difference? Because again, when you put the packaging in the depot, that actually doesn't do the job of a packaging because it's all covered with dust because that's how the product lining and everything works in the industry. Right. So yeah, that was a great challenge because just making them understand what a certain design can do and also why, let's say, a bold logo is needed for your company in a category that only talks about strength and all, and why we should not be talking the same codes, why we should talk a little differently is something that is very important for us as a designer or creative professionals to put it forward in the industry. At the same time, it is important for client to be on the same page to understand and take that leap of faith that, okay, if this is a new way to look at the industry, still be familiar, not like doing something very crazy, because not every industry can do that. There are certain ways of looking at nothing. So that was a great challenge because me, the creative directors, design directors, then client professionals, client managers, strategists, we all were just trying to make them understand, okay, what are the different ways of looking at it. And we ended up making, yeah, so that's another part of the process. What we do is when we do like three options, it would always be like first one, which is very familiar and can be the safest option possible. Second option can be like somewhere in between, which can be slightly fresh. Third one is like completely crazy. Like this is no one would have seen.
I've heard this approach.
And yeah, so that's the same way we went ahead with. And somehow they liked something that was not fresh. That was not safe enough for the industry, but fresh in terms of looking at the story. And then also just because of the challenges of this category, how was the visibility in real market, etc., etc., etc. We also ended up doing a couple of audits, and then also showing logo in certain ways in a particular mock-up. Like if the bags are kept like this, only this percentage is visible because you only see the side with stacked up like this, and the actual larger surface is not visible at all. So within that given space, what can we do with the branding? We obviously have something on the larger flatter surface. But what can we do on that particular sides, which is probably like an inch and a half that is visible? What can we do that it actually makes us visible more amongst all the other top competitors? Lucky enough, when we also did a couple of audits, when people saw maybe people are passing through a couple of construction sites, they clicked pictures and sent it back to us. And those were pictures of either, the workers trying to bring out the bags of the cements from the truck, or the cement bags were cut and then discarded. I think we did a pretty good job because even with the discarded dusty bag, the brand and the packaging design was as prominent as new, which I don't think any of the other competitor does. So yeah, that was a success.
Has this work come out yet?
Yeah, it's there. It is there.
I think I can guess the brand.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's so interesting to know. And this actually brings me to something that I was thinking about a day or two earlier. It arose from a conversation that I had with a few people. And you tell me if you think it's similar, if you have had a similar experience or not, in your early days at least, that I don't think a lot of people in India have the common overall understanding of what a brand designer does. For example, if you tell them that I'm a website designer, they have an idea and they also know that their company needs a website. You tell them I'm a graphic designer, they know kind of the work that has to be done and the work that's needed. Tell them I'm a designer, I'm a brand strategist and a designer. They just can't think past the logo maybe. And this is, I'm not talking about proper actual entrepreneurs, I'm talking about the general zeitgeist of things. In general, do you think there's a lack of awareness about it?
I think yes. Also because we are culturally exposed to a lot of things, which probably doesn't fall into the codes of what Western countries would mean by design. Because the way we function and the Western countries function, even daily things in the lifestyle, it's quite different. We are more like a systematic chaos, and they are more like streamlined, structured thoughts in a good way or a bad way. Yeah, I think we are also the one who were quite late in actively talking about design and actually actively looking at design from a career point of view. But I feel that may be changing because there's a lot of democratization that happens, be it access to software, access to good work. Then when you see an amazing packaging on a shelf, as a layman, if you go there and buy, and you're looking at an amazing, and if that is influencing you in some way, or at least making you look at it and go pick up to understand what it is, I think it is still it's still doing a better job compared to where we were as larger masses a couple of years back maybe. And yeah, I think it comes with time because if let's say if there's a group of friends and all of them are in different kind of industry working there, need not be creative at all. It can be business, it can be anything else, and I'm the only one who's a designer. So that automatically kind of educates them, which wouldn't have been possible because again, like there were certain professions being glorified that were outside of creative industry, and that kind of sticks to the masses mind. So when there are like a couple of people in a familiar group who are into something new, like be it a film or be it a design or what do you really do in design. So that starts probably educating them in a way or two. But that also happens with a lot of clients that I've seen. And I don't think I can blame them because if you're an entrepreneur or a CEO or a founder in a company, which is not his business of different industries. It is very okay to not know about what design can do, and because they have been focusing on the business, the growth, the other part of it, how it functions, etc. And probably it would be our job to go and educate them, and actually make them look because that's what we do, right? Like if we are spending time in making amazing visualizations of a branding, let's say, it would be to actually make them feel comfortable and make them realize, okay, if we this is something we never thought. That is the whole intent. But at the same time, all the brands today, if they are consumer front, they have the marketing team or the brand managers who are very much into this conversation and discussion because they know what a good design can bring to them and how it can actually make their sales better, if I have to put it that way. So I think it's in a
Takes
better
time.
stage. Yeah, but it takes time. Like uh, probably I have come across a lot of relatives, a lot of people, neighbors, whoever. They know that I'm a designer, but there are again like certain stereotypes that happens when you say a designer. So if like for me, I am into brand and packaging primarily, but also in larger visual design, but primarily brand and packaging, and that's what my day job is. So if someone is asking me what do I do, I say I'm a designer. So the first thing that would come to mind is okay, designer means fashion designer? No. Okay. If not fashion designer, so is it like interior designer? Because again, I think those two are somehow the categories under design profession, which started a long time and it's quite visible to people through the larger masses. Like you know why Sabasati does amazing fashion shows because you know he's a designer and what work he does. So there's already like a glorification that happens and which is good. So that kind of sticks to people's mind, I feel, and that's where the
Takes time.
confusion starts. Yeah.
But the inclusion of design surely has happened. I mean, as you were saying with your relatives, even with my friends, I mean, I'm an engineer, I'm doing BTech. And so, even with among my friends, we are of the same age, you would think that the awareness can be similar. But even, even when I tell them that I'm actually like a brand strategist and a designer, they're like, oh, logos? And I'm like, yeah, and
Yeah.
others. And they're like, okay, logo and website? I'm like, yeah, sure, we'll go with that. Yeah, so it'll take time, but it's true. Like for example, one of my favorite food and beverage brand is The Whole Truth. I
Hmm.
think it's doing super exciting things in its space. Like the bravery with the packaging is crazy. They don't have a single product shot. It's just a few illustrations on the side and lots of text,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I
that's
think that's an amazing
superb,
case
right?
study because again, like not a lot of brand can do that. I'm sure
Hmm.
they would have like five other competitors who are doing amazing sales, but they didn't probably, didn't have the courage enough or
And,
they're not in a position to do something
mhm.
new, which is
and
okay,
that's where
but
their
that's
position
where
so
brands
awesome,
are
right?
different. Yeah, yeah.
Because it's the whole truth, so they don't shy away from sharing everything. So
Of
they
course,
can
of
just
course.
write the ingredients on the front page itself.
Yeah,
That's super awesome.
it's again like a very fresh take at
Mhm.
looking a very fresh perspective of looking at a product category which should probably have existed for a decent amount of time, and there are a lot of
True,
competitors both in
very true.
India and outsiders who come into the shelf, nearby shelf.
Tell me about AI usage in your personal work life. How has AI affected things for you?
I don't think it affected me. I mean, I don't feel threatened by it at this
Yeah.
point at least. I hope
Any
it doesn't
positive
happen.
changes?
Yeah, of course. Like, so what we also do at work is we have extensive use of AI, but in a good way. Like, of course, I think what the larger conversation is AI gonna replace the work we do as a creative professional? But I don't think we are delving into that space. But what we are trying to do is the output is still by human because it has to be human. It has to make sense to a lot of strategy because a lot of it is at stake from that point of view. But we try to use in multiple ways so that there are like different, okay, let me put it this way. So there are different phases to each project. There are strategy, there are pre-visualizations, there are like design presentations, and then a couple of rounds, and then you go close the project with deliverables. So what it has done is it has helped us visualize strategy a lot better, because now you don't have to rely on uh, you know sites like Shutterstock and Pinterest to find a particular image. Let's say I have
True.
a design direction and I want to create a mode image. All this while, my energy would have invested in just scrolling, finding the right image. And then if I want Pinterest or any other Google images, after probably like 10, 15 minutes of scrolling, I would find something. But then I realize, okay, this doesn't work because it's pixelated AF. And then I can't use it. So all of these processes have changed, because now I can sit on probably Midjourney or any other platforms and try to actually get the image I want. And
True.
that helps me sell my idea better. And I'm not saying I would go and generate an illustration or I would go and generate a logo design or something like that and try to present it as work. That's not what we do. That's a strict red flag. But I would rather use it as a mood image to sell my idea better. Client, when they're looking at my deck, they're not only looking at, not only looking at the headlines, the body copy, and trying to make sense from the bullet points. They have an amazing visualization that is close to what their vision of probably the rebranding or this change or this packaging would look like.
So in the visualization space, brainstorming, ideation, that
Yes,
phase,
and
I'm seeing
also
extensive use.
yes. And also, a lot of times, let's say there's a given project and I'm doing a poster, and let's say this design direction is very much led by the kind of photography, because every photography style, way of clicking it has certain stories to tell. So I was doing one of these projects lately, and one of the route was very photography led. And with the copy and with that particular photography, only that particular direction made sense and that made it unique. But what will happen is probably I won't be able to, if it's, let's say, if it's photography led, I have very specific art direction, I have very specific choice that I want to bring out on that particular piece of imagery.
True.
Wait, how that child is smiling, or how that child is on the swing, who is at the back, who is pushing the child, how he's laughing. All of that is very, 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 very difficult to at least get in this pre-stage of design. It's very difficult to get from a available resource. Obviously, you can always, partner with a photographer and get it done, and that's what we do for the final result. But for the pre-stage where you're actually trying to
Right. It
sell
would
this
consume a
vision
lot of
to,
resources unnecessarily.
sell this vision to client, then all of these AI comes into the play. Like I could literally churn out every single image that I wanted the way it is.
That's true, yes.
So
The capabilities are
that,
getting stronger every
yeah.
moment.
So I wouldn't see it as something that would replace, at least in my current state of profession. But I think it eases and makes me push a little more.
Awesome. This was such a fun conversation, fun knowing you.
Same
Thanks for
here.
giving your time.
Lovely talking to you.
See you then.
See you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.